Yeah, I'm a part of the gang. Part of the gang. I was going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, but I have mostly, quote unquote, sorted out everything off the floor. There's still stuff on the floor, but it's known entities, and I need to do an inventory of what's in the bags. I got a couple of Benny spaceships, a couple of whatever other Megacore magnetizers, other sets and baggies that I built and just put in baggies to put into the storage totes. I still have my storage tote of vehicles here because it's half full now because I've been taking everything apart. So this is going to save me lots of space, but I have to do that to the rest of the totes in the garage, and I just don't feel like it. so there's that. I was having fun with that. I'm going to say that. Taking apart all the classic space sets that were vehicles, going from the 886 up to the solar power transporter. I haven't got to the mobile rocket launcher yet because those aren't in there, which is actually a shock to me. I have to go find them now because they're obviously in another classic space bin out in the garage. I can take those apart too and put them in there because they'll fit. Any vehicle, and now I, of course, in my head, this is the major debate of the century: is the robot command center considered a vehicle because it's got skis on it, or is it considered not a vehicle because it's a command center? So vacillate. So the stuff I have ruminations in my head about. So whilst cleaning up, I've been listening to on YouTube's. I just put it on random and mostly science fiction music. Started off with Tron Legacy, which is where I always start. Tron Legacy Ultimate Soundtrack Suite. It is perfect. It is absolutely perfect. I've heard the entire Tron Legacy soundtrack, and all of it is good, but the Tron Legacy Ultimate Soundtrack Suite, Tron Legacy Soundtrack Ultimate Suite, whatever, which one. There's only one of them. It's 18 minutes long. It's fantastic. I'll just put that on the background and just let it play. And of course, 18 minutes will go by like that when you're sorting your room, and it goes randomizes other videos. And of course, it got to here's my English major. It got to Star Trek Picard Season 3 soundtrack. Now, here it is. and you might not immediately know where this tangent is going. I tried to look it up on the internet. This is pre-internet, and I don't think they digitally scanned all newspapers of all time into the internet. All articles from all newspaper headline, byline, reporters, journalists, whatever. My dad, so this is, you think this is a tangent, my dad is a huge John Wayne fan. The character in the movies, not necessarily of the person, the real person. Again, we talked about that before, where you have to separate the product from the person. My dad has, I don't actually know specifically his appreciation of Marion Wayne, that's his real name if I remember correctly, Marion John Wayne. As a person, I hear various things over the years of me being around about the actual actor, and I don't care. I just don't care. I just do not care myself about the ruminations and the minuses and the whatevers that John Wayne himself had. He was who he was. I don't have to go hang out with the guy. He's long gone. Died in 77, if I remember correctly. And his personal take on the world and issues and politics of the day, I couldn't give a flying patootie. I just don't care now. He's gone. Getting bogged down into the nuances of but you're supporting him. No, again, whatever. I'm not even going to get into that. But okay, so John Wayne as a person, we're not talking about. on that specific tangent, of course, there's going to be tangents, and I hope I get back to the main point at some point. I was watching Trek culture, Sean Ferrick, and he's been going through the ups and downs of all the series when they're on. Usually, especially when it was Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds and Discovery, he would do ups and downs for each episode as they came out. I religiously watched that, and again, so yeah, we talk about that because I'm hoping I'm going to keep on track of all these and get back to the main point. Years ago, when the internet, the dawn of the third age of the internet, there was a little place called Hyperion that nobody here now today will know what that is. And on Hyperion, there was a news group. It was a live news group where there was a sub board. Well before Reddit, well before all this other crap, Hyperion. And on Hyperion, there was an alt-rec Babylon 5. I don't know what the actual title was, but it was Babylon 5. When Babylon 5 was on. And JMS, the producer, director, writer, and all around the best person in the entire universe. I'm not saying Roddenberry and JMS, but there's a huge difference. Again, I'm not going to go off on those tangents. But JMS would be on Hyperion talking about the show that just aired. He wasn't talking about the future shows. And if you're on the board, it was mandated by the administrators that you do not throw out ideas for future episodes because there could be lawsuits. Oh, he stole my idea. But JMS interacted with the fans immediately after the airing of the episodes. And this is the dawn of the internet. So there's like, not millions of people, but huge fans of Babylon 5 would also have computers at home, and I was one of them. And I would say, "Oh, JMS is typing," and then from that Hyperion website and news group, there's a website called Lurker's Guide to Babylon 5, which was the best. I think it's still out there. It was literally the best website to go to for Babylon 5 stuff. Where they compiled all this stuff, and then they had a title for every episode and the summary and blah blah blah, behind the scenes blah blah. They also had the JMS Speaks tab, which JMS talked about the episode and how he got there, whatever was unique about that episode. It was fantastic. I loved that interaction. Live stream basically every week when the episode came out, JMS would be there talking to his fans. And then so Trek culture or whatever it's called with Sean Ferrick. Basically, not necessarily the same thing like hyping, but basically he does a summation and ups and downs of what he liked about the episode, what he didn't like about the episode as it came out. And of course, right now there's been a bereftness, a wasteland, a desert of new Star Trek stuff. Because Discovery ended, Lower Decks ended, SNW was on hiatus for a little while. It's going back July, yeah. And so basically they decided, the Sean Ferrick and team decided to start doing the ups and downs of older stuff, pre-internet stuff. And so they're going through the ups and downs of the movies. And of course, the very first movie is Star Trek: The Motion Picture, because it's the first movie. And again, I'm going to sit here and I'm not going to defend why you should like Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I cannot convince other people that they should like this movie. It's not my favorite Star Trek movie, period. It's my favorite Star Trek movie of all time is Star Trek 6. It's the most Star Trek-ish of all Star Trek movies ever. Like, 2 is the best. No, it's not. And 2 is a sequel. I'm not going to go off on this tangent. 2 is a great movie as a movie in the Star Trek universe. But Star Trek 6 is a Star Trek movie. It has all the themes that Roddenberry was talking about, period. All of them. The whole point of the original series, what was brought out, specifically the Vietnam War, the Russians, the friction between the freedom and the all that stuff. That was 100%. You watch Star Trek 6, there was an allegory, a direct allegory of the Klingon Empire and the Federation being the U.S. and Russia at the time, because Chernobyl just blew up and that was Praxis, blah, blah, blah. That movie was pure 100%, 99.9% Star Trek, perfection. Anyway, so Ferrick does the Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And if you watch the ups and downs of the Star Trek: The Motion Picture, he has this proviso right at the front of that ups and downs of the movie. Star Trek the motion picture, because there's an actor on that movie that subsequently later on in life became not a nice person, or he probably was never a nice person, but we didn't know that until after Star Trek the motion picture. So there was a guy on Star Trek the motion picture, not one of our regulars, who became not a nice person publicly. And so he says, we have to separate the actor from the acting, the production. And so the ups and downs of Star Trek the motion picture did not take into consideration the person who was actually doing the acting, just the person that he portrayed on the screen. So that's what I'm saying here. So with John Wayne, so see, all the way back to John Wayne. So whatever you think about the actor, and most people aren't even thinking about John Wayne anymore. Let's be perfectly honest. A lot of people do not consider John Wayne in the regular parlance, regular conversation. But I do, because I grew up watching John Wayne movies, because my dad is a huge fan of John Wayne movies, like literally all of them. Going back to like 1938, Angel and the Bad Man. Again, forget the guy. Watch Angel and Bad Man. Tell me that's not a great movie. I loved it. I think it's one of my greatest, wonderful John Wayne movies of all time. Does it come close to True Grit? True Grit doesn't come close to True Grit, because I love the Jeff Bridges version too. Blah blah. So, but anyway, so my dad, huge John Wayne fan. I'm growing up in his house. It was probably 1970, maybe early 80s, late 70s. I could read, and there was a newspaper article where a guy said, you must have been some sort of wimp if you didn't like John Wayne. This is before people started bad-mouthing him for his personal proclivities or appreciations or his stance on various topics. When he was still, in the general consensus, a person that people admired and aspired to. But the article itself, I'm sure, but he had photocopies. My dad had photocopies of it. So I know I could probably ask him. He has it. It was a really good movie. But basically, it was talking about, again, speaking of True Grit, it was talking about how you have these Siskel and Ebert guys, these critics of movies, who will sit through a movie and have that critical stance about what do I like, what's good, and basically critique the movie for the pluses and minuses, just like ups and downs from Sean Ferrick, but critique the movie, the soundtrack, the director, whatever, what they liked, what they didn't like, because they're critics. And he said, this guy was writing this newspaper article that a newspaper critic or a movie critic was watching True Grit 1972 for the first time, and he's supposed to be that separate your emotions from the movie and watch the movie, and then there's that scene in the movie where you got Ned Pepper, Robert Duvall, very young by the way, Robert Duvall standing on one side of the field, and you got John Wayne's on the other side of the field, and John Wayne's old and haggard, is missing an eye, he's kind of blind, he's got an old horse, blah blah, and then they're yelling across the field at each other, kind of taunting each other, and that's mighty big words, says Ned Pepper to John Wayne. That's mighty big words for a one-eyed old whatever geezer. And all of a sudden John Wayne goes, "Fill your hands with lead, you son of a bitch," and he takes off. He's got the guns going across Ned Pepper's running all the way. And the critic says, "Oh, go John, go!" Like in the theater, he says that the critic stood up, "Go John, go!" Because in that moment, not for everybody, but in that moment, you just kind of you're watching the entire movie, and John Wayne's being John Wayne and doing this stuff in True Grit, and you get to that point where it's the standoff. Like there's spaghetti westerns, there's a million standoffs in a million movies that you've always seen. There's always going to be a standoff between X good and Y bad. There's gonna be a standoff. Obi-Wan and Darth Vader standing across each other, whatever it is. But here's John Wayne, old, there's that Pepper on the side. "Go John, go!" So it's the critic. So that goes back to I'm listening to Star Trek. So this is me bringing all the tangents back together. So this is me listening to Star Trek 3, season 3 of Picard on the YouTubes, and I know what's coming. and I know the critics who had a huge problem with 1 and 2, and I'm not faulting them at all because I didn't. They weren't. They were fine. They were just filler. There were some highlights in there that I really enjoyed of season 1 and season 2 of Picard, but overall, meh. Kind of like DS9 for me. I'm slogging through DS9. I'm in halfway through, or starting season 3, and I'm going, I was watching Babylon 5 when this was out. And Babylon 5 captivated me from the very first pilot. And this thing in season 3, and I'm going, it's okay. People, it's the best series ever. Now, it isn't. There's some fantastic episodes in there, and it's so unique. I'm going, every single episode I've seen so far, every single episode. Again, I've seen them all, but I'm critiquing them now. Every single episode either harkens back to TNG, like every single one so far. Some even harken back to TOS. it's like Star Trek is repetitive a lot, by the way. And I don't mind that because that's why I like Star Trek. But the veneration of DS9 above all other series, like it's the best one, so far above all the rest of the series. No, absolutely not. It's not. It's great. Again, all Star Trek's great. It is great, but it is not fantastically awesome for me, because every time I watch it, I'm reminded how much better Babylon 5 was, and how much this just reminds me of other episodes from other series. And again, that's what all Star Trek does. Anyway, so season 1 and 2 of Picard, I watched them. Do I have to watch them again? No. I didn't mind the second one that had a little more stuff, and I love seeing Will Wheaton. Again, I adore seeing Will Wheaton anytime he shows up on Star Trek, and when he showed up in Lower Decks and blah, blah. I love Will Wheaton. The guy, I have huge admiration for the guy and everything he's been through. And the fact that he gets to play the character that he loves. So, and screw everybody else, because like it's just like Hayden Christensen coming back now as Anakin, and people are just giving him standing ovations, whereas 20 years ago he was pilloried out of existence because the older fans, not necessarily me because I didn't mind the first 3 episodes, the older fans hated him. And I'm going, it was fine, it was good, it wasn't like we loved the original. Anyway, there's more tangents. So anyway, so season 3, playing on my computer while I'm sorting books here and listening. Oh, and I know it's coming because I can hear the music coming, and it's just, oh, here we go, Bay 12. In my head, I'm already visualizing it, Bay 12, and I'm going, if that, and again, Steve Shives, love the guy. I will watch every one of his movies. I mean, every one of his videos where he critiques Star Trek and dislikes and Voyager, and I'm not blaming him at all because he has valid criticisms, and that's who he is. I adore Voyager, always have, but again, I adore all Star Trek, including DS9. There's weak stuff and there's great stuff in all series, and some series have more better stuff in there. But anyway, I'm just like, in my head, I see the Enterprise coming out of the Bay 12 in my head, and the music swelling, and it's got, and then I thought about the actual theme that's there, and I'm going, it just brings hope. It just brings hope. This music brings, it's like Superman, it just brings hope that, of course, everybody's gonna get through it because of Star Trek, you always get through it. But it's just, and the music's flowing, and then they go, and those 3 notes, nothing else plays besides those 3 notes. The rest of it, you got all the music in the background is kind of swelling and doing alternate music and allegrettos, whatever music terms there are. But it's, you get, and those are the notes that are played, whatever key, whatever musical instrument. But that is just like again, brings me right back to the motion picture. Go back to the motion picture, is that when Kirk and Scotty come around the corner and they turn full on to see the Enterprise, and people were asleep by then, as they say, but not me. I'm glued to the set. Yes, it's starship porn. It's straight up, and I don't care. I'm here for it. That they come around the corner and all of a sudden you see the Enterprise, the refit sitting there, and the music, and I'm going, we got hope. And so I just get so enthusiastic by that theme, and how much respect and appreciation out of all the series, because Voyager had its own theme that Goldsmith composed, which is why I probably like the Voyager theme out of all of them. Star Trek V, the really redeeming part of it was the soundtrack, because Jerry Goldsmith. But Jerry Goldsmith did the motion picture, and it's just perfect. And it's like, it's just nice, and it just brings that. I'm gonna jump out of my chair and go Jean-Luc, go. Because like, it's just, the music just gets behind you, it just kind of pushes you there. And yes, other people who are, you know, staunch critics will cross their arms and say, oh, it was just a complete fan service. Don't care in that scene. I didn't care in that scene. They justified it on the screen that it had to be analog, whatever, it had to be disconnected, whatever, it had to be separate from the rest of the Borg assimilated starships, whatever. I don't care. I don't care. It is like seeing the Enterprise refit roll out of the docking station. It's just like seeing the Excelsior, you know, in the big huge primary hull of the Excelsior, when they're on the little shuttle in the big huge starbase, and all of a sudden they go over the hull and and there's the Enterprise A. It's like, I'm not dead. This, like, Star Trek's been part of my life since I was 3 or 4 years old, and I don't want to gloss over the bad stuff and the silly stuff, because I love the silly stuff. I don't want to say it's like the best thing ever and everybody should follow that. But if you put your critical thinking skills on, it is Star Trek. It's a fantasy. So, like, oh, that starship cannot do that, and then the transporter cannot do that, and this is repetitive. There are so many things of a Star Trek that will defy logical ideas. I don't care. In universe, it's wonderful, and the stories they tell, and the places they take us to, and the thoughts they give, and the moral conundrums that they go through, and blah blah blah. This is why Star Trek trounces Star Wars for me, because there's hardly any moral conundrums in Star Wars. There's good and evil. That's it. Now again, you get the nuance. People are like, it doesn't matter. Star Wars is science fantasy, and it is, you know, the good Jedis against the bad Empire, and blah blah blah. That's what it is, right? Darth Vader is just this big, huge, tall, evil guy that shows up on the screen and kills somebody 5 seconds after he shows up on the screen for the first time. And I'm 10 years old watching that. It was great. But Star Trek for me will always be better than Star Wars. And I love Star Wars. Star Trek for me is a foundational pillar of life, but it offered me over all these years ideas about morality and immortality and legacy and all that stuff that I never got from Star Wars. Star Wars is, I put my mind on hold and I get entertained by a great movie. So if I like shows, like, again, Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, Private Little War, even the Whom Gods Destroy. The TOS episode names were just fantastic. What Are Little Goals Made Of? Okay, it wasn't so bad, but I adore watching something on TV that after an hour I'm left with thoughts. Again, a lot of my friends don't like to be preached at. I never found Star Trek to be too preachy, but they also don't want to have to put any thought into it. They want to be entertained for an hour, and I'm not faulting them for that. I will not fault them for that. I want to be entertained. Overall, I find The Big Bang Theory extremely entertaining, and there's not a lot of moral conundrums, and you have to work out the trolley problem or whatever, all that stuff, that these huge esoteric philosophical ideals, and I put my mind on for half an hour and I laugh a lot, but I don't want that from Star Trek. Overall, there can be an episode or two that are just completely Robin Hood. I am not a merry man. Says Worf. It was just a great episode, and again, a complete fluff episode. You watched the Next Generation, and you watched It's like the Squire Gothos. I mean, it's basically Q shows up. It doesn't matter. But the Robin Hood episode in TNG, it was such a throwaway episode. It had nothing to do with literally anything, and it was just stupid fun, and I loved it. But I don't want every episode for 26 episodes a season to be like that. I want to have thought-provoking episodes. The Drumhead. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? The 2-part episode where Picard was captured by the Cardassian, what's his name? David Warner. My goodness, was that a great episode. It was fantastic. It was very thought-provoking and on all fronts. That's what I want from my show. And again, I do, not to wrap this back around again, I think I covered all my topics, but I do want to say that I do separate overall the product from the person. And so I will still watch Star Trek The Motion Picture, and I won't give a thought to the actor that played that character. I'll just watch the character. And I will still appreciate Star Trek The Motion Picture as much as I did when I was a kid. His personal badness does not affect my appreciation of the franchise or of the movie. And I'm saying I'm not perfect on this, because I will not watch a Will Smith movie right now. I just will not. When I come across a TikTok from the Boys in the, not Boys in the Dead, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I keep on swiping. I will not watch Will Smith right now. It is still too, and again, it had nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing to do with me. But what he did was is wrong, and he's never owned up to it, as far as I've been told. But even if he did own up to it, I'm still gonna have this bitter taste here, and maybe that'll change. But right now, and again, there's so many things for me to watch. I don't even miss watching Will Smith movies, even though back in the day, it drove Sydney nuts. Every single time Independence Day was on TV, I'd stop and watch it. And now I don't. I skip right over it, no matter where it is. For now. That might change in the future, but for now, I will skip Will Smith movies. I can't think of anything else, any other person off the top of my head right now that I am privately boycotting, and I don't expect anybody else to, that I'm privately boycotting like Will Smith. I can't think of any. And people go, oh, this actor did this and that actor did that. And I go, oh, okay, I didn't know that. But I know what Will Smith did because the world saw it. So, but anyway, so that was 27 minutes, and I think I went all those tangents, and I brought them all back to the end. I try to be critical of my thoughts sometimes when it comes to things I like to reassess about why I still like them. I like to reassess everything I do to make sure I'm still walking where I want to be walking, and doing what I'm going to be doing, and making sure I'm not causing harm to other people. I do like to verify that my actions are not negatively impacting other people. I do that kind of assessment, whatever. How is this going to affect other people, good or bad? And but I also am pretty much my age now, and I'm pretty much used to doing things the way I do things, knowing that it's been good so far, not necessarily always for me, but for people I know. People I know that I respect and care for, I want to be happy, and so I'll just keep on doing stuff the way I do things, and keep on showing up the way I show up, and helping out where I can help out, not sweating the stuff I can't do, because I can't do everything, and the older I get, the less I can do. Realizing that. But I will sometimes sit in my chair, and sometimes I'll jump up and say, "Go, John, go!" Because I am moved. I am moved at that moment. And right now, I'm noticing every time I hear that theme from the motion picture / TNG / Star Trek 3, Picard season 3. That theme is very important. To me. It doesn't have to be important to anybody else, but that theme is very important to me as a optimistic, overjoyous hope. That's the way it's always been perceived by me. I think that's the best way to put it. Optimistic, overjoyed hope that whatever's going to happen, we got it and we'll get through it. And I know it's based on a TV series, but that is built into the premise of the show that they got it, because they have to have an episode next week. So, but the going right back to the motion picture and going into the next generation, like I was happy. I remember watching the very first episode of TNG when I was like 20. I think it's when it came out, 1986, 1987. And I was very happy that that Roddenberry got to reuse the same theme from TNG as they got from the motion picture. They did not use that theme at all for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 at all. They lifted from the original soundtrack, and they kind of sort of used it in Star Trek 5-ish, but it was different. But the Next Generation theme, I think there's a few stanzas that are cut for the alternate notes, but the TNG theme is exactly the same as the Enterprise theme from the motion picture and the opening credits. But it's a hope, and yeah, so that's it. I will. That's it. So no more. You guys stay safe.